All right, let's talk about mobile system design. We're going to pull back the curtain on that invisible architecture, the thing that makes the best apps out there feel so seamless. Let's dive in.
You know that feeling, right? You open an app, you tap, you scroll, and everything just works. It feels like magic. But what's the secret sauce? What's the real difference between an app that feels super solid and one that feels, I don't know, kind of flimsy?
Well, the secret isn't just about writing a bunch of clever code. It's about having a plan, a powerful architectural blueprint. Think of it like building a house. You need a solid plan before you even lay the first brick to make sure it's strong and can grow over time.
And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to explore that blueprint layer by layer so you can see exactly what it takes to build a truly world-class app. Okay, so every great structure needs a rock-solid foundation. And for mobile apps, that foundation is built on a handful of core architectural patterns. These are the rules that decide how the entire system gets organized. First up is something called separation of concerns. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually super simple and really powerful. You keep the stuff the user sees and touches, the UI, totally separate from the brains of the operation, the business logic that handles all the data. Why? Because when you keep them separate, your code is way easier to test and manage, especially as your app grows. Next, let's talk about unidirectional data flow, or UDF for short. Now, this pattern basically turns your app's data into a strict one-way street. No U-turns allowed. It's all about making sure you know exactly how information is moving and changing, creating total predictability. So how does this one-way street actually play out? Well, let's say you're about to like a photo. First, the app's current data, we call that the state, flows down to draw the screen you see. Then you tap the like button. That's an event, and it gets sent back up. The app's logic processes that event, updates the data to say, hey, this photo is liked now. And then that new state flows back down to the UI, turning that little heart icon red. See? It's a super clean, predictable loop. And here's why this is a total game changer. Because data can only move in that one direction, you always know where a change came from. There's no guesswork. This just demolishes chaos, slashes the number of bugs, and when a bug does pop up, finding it is so much easier. This leads us perfectly to our final foundational rule, the single source of truth. All this means is that for any piece of data, say your user profile, there is one and only one place where it lives and gets updated. That's it. This simple rule is what stops you from having conflicting info and keeps everything consistent across the entire app. All right, our foundation is set. Now it's time to add the utilities, the plumbing and electricity of our app. This layer is all about managing an app's most vital resource, data. So when it comes to storing data on the device itself, you've got choices. And each one comes with trade-offs. For simple stuff like app settings, a key value store is perfect, but it's not built for complex data. If you've got large, structured data sets, you'll need a relational database. It's powerful for sure, but a bit more work to set up. And for the really sensitive stuff like login tokens, you have to use secure storage. Yeah, there's a small performance hit, but it's non-negotiable for security. Okay, but what about data from the internet? Think about your social feed. How on earth does it handle that endless scrolling without just melting your phone? The answer, of course, is a really clever data fetching strategy. It's called pagination, and it comes in two main flavors. First, you've got offset pagination. This is like telling a book, give me page 5. It's simple, but imagine if someone adds new pages at the beginning. Your page 5 is now totally different. The other way is cursor-based pagination. This is more like using a bookmark. You say, give me the next 20 items after this specific one I'm looking at. This is absolutely perfect for those real-time feeds where new stuff is always popping up at the top. It's exactly why your feed doesn't get all jumbled when you're scrolling. Okay, so we've got a solid foundation and a smart way to handle data. But here's the thing. Great apps are never done. They're always evolving. So this next part is all about how you ship new features and make improvements without breaking everything.
You know, back in the day, releasing a new feature was this huge, terrifying, all-or-nothing event. But today, the best teams have a much smarter approach. They don't just flip a giant switch for millions of users all at once. Nope. They roll things out gradually, very carefully.
And the magic tool that makes this possible is the feature flag. Just think of it as a remote control on-off switch for any new feature. This is huge because it completely separates shipping the code from actually turning the feature on for users. It gives the team incredible control. And with that control, you get this really safe, modern rollout process. So step 1, you develop the new feature, but it's hidden behind the flag, so it's off for everybody. Step 2, you can flip it on for just a small group to A/B test it. And step 3, if all the tests look good, you can start a gradual rollout, maybe to 1% of users, then 10%, then 50%, all the way up to 100%. So we've got the architecture, the data, and how to ship new stuff. We've built a good app, but what makes an app great? What takes it to that next level? It all comes down to the finishing touches, those essential qualities that create a truly world-class experience. We're talking about things like snappy performance, right? Making sure it's accessible to every single user, having rock-solid privacy and security, and making it available to a global audience with localization. And let me be clear, these are not just nice-to-haves. They are absolutely critical pillars of a quality app. And make no mistake, this stuff directly impacts whether your app succeeds or fails. The source material really nails it here. People just do not have patience for apps that crash, kill their battery, or have that awful UI jink, that stuttery, choppy scrolling that just feels broken. Poor performance isn't just annoying, it's a one-way ticket to getting uninstalled. So as we bring this all together, it's pretty clear that building an amazing mobile app is about the whole package. Every single layer we've talked about, from those deep architectural foundations all the way up to the final polish, is absolutely vital.
Because when you start with a strong blueprint, one that really thinks through the architecture, the data, the delivery, and the quality, that's when you can build experiences that aren't just functional, but are an absolute delight to use.
And look, this blueprint isn't some abstract theory. It's the real-world guide that the best developers on the planet use every single day. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?